Hi everyone, welcome to our video on solving a system of equations by using a calculator. So there are usually menus for matrices in handheld calculators. These two are probably the most popular types of calculators that students might use, but even like the Casios or other types of calculators have them. Probably your phone can have an app that has these as well that can do it. Okay, but I'm going to just kind of use the internet to show you how to do it, kind of assuming that you have, say, it's like online class and you might not have a handheld calculator, or if you just don't have a handheld calculator. I mean, they're expensive, and most of the time we don't really need it too much. So we'll use our free resources. Okay, so let's use the Gauss-Jordan method and a calculator to solve these equations. All right, to solve them, first thing we do though, okay, so if we're going to use kind of the common way to solve these, first thing we do need to do is put it in the form of a matrix. So we've got x, y, and our constant, and we've got 12, -5, 9, 3, -8, -18. All right, and then with our free resource, so I'm on Google, and I just typed in Desmos. And there is a graphing calculator as well that you can use. I'm going to use the scientific calculator. Okay, so this is more useful for, like, say, the number 2 down there with the z's involved. And what we've got on it, so you've got these different functions you go look at. All right, so we got these here. There's going to be an option. Let me make it bigger. Okay, so I can't see. Oops. Can I make this bigger? There we go. Okay, so I need to make it a little bigger because the full options weren't there. Okay, so the Math Tools Matrix Calculator. Okay, so it changes it into this form, and you've got these letters and numbers. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a new matrix. So we're going to create that exact matrix. So all we do is just push new matrix. Notice it's not the correct size, the correct dimensions. All right, so our rows are horizontal. Notice that we do have 2 rows, but we have 3 columns. So let's go like that. Okay, so make sure it has the same size. If you accidentally did 3 rows and 2 columns, well, notice it doesn't look exactly the same. Okay, so we could quickly fix it. Okay, and then all we're going to do is just type those numbers in. So I've got 12 tab, -5 tab, 9 tab, 3 tab, -8 tab, -18. So I use the tab button to move from entry to entry. Okay, and then really double check everything is written, typed in correctly. It looks good to me. Okay, and then now that we have the matrix set up, I'm just going to press enter. Okay, so it's ready to go. And then what we can do, we're going to use this button. So this means row reduced echelon form is what that means. We'll write it down in just a second, but we just set that up, and then I'm just going to press A, and then we can set the other parenthesis to make it look official. But notice the answer is kind of ready, and I'm going to press enter just to have it. And this is part of the answer. This is really going to help us. So what it did in one single step, it kind of gives us the answer as long as we know how to interpret it. Okay, so we've got it. Let's go ahead and write down what we did. Okay, so we've got, and notice I'm going to scroll up from the previous video. That's what we got to. So it is the same problem again. So I've reused this problem a couple times in different videos. Okay, so that's that. So it saved us all these steps. So it took what probably took, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, or 5 minutes, a couple minutes, however fast you are. But it did it in seconds. Okay, so it's done very, very quickly. Okay, so all we did, we just wanted to use the RREF function. So that's all we have to show for our, or at least that's what I would say is all we have to show for our work here on a calculator. And we got 1, let's go ahead and put the x. So the x, y, and constant, I like to still put. So we got 1, 0, and what was it? Let me just scroll to this one, 2. So we had 1, 0, and 2, and then we had 0, 1, and 3. And then now all we have to do is rewrite this back into equation form. So this is saying, this top one is saying you have 1x plus 0 y's. So we don't need to write 0 y. This vertical line means equals the constant 2. The bottom one is 0x, so I don't need to write that. 1y, which I'll just write as y, equals that constant 3. And so that is the answer, 2 comma 3. Okay, so that's what we got last time as well. Okay, so RREF, that does mean, let me go ahead, it's a little messy. RREF means row reduced echelon form. So that's what it means. So if it says that somewhere in like an assignment, this is what they want. They want something like that. And I'm just going to write number. Okay, so they want something like that. Because it really does give you the answer right away. As long, again, as you know how to interpret it. Okay, so awesome. So pretty quick, right? So if you do have an 84 and a TI Inspire, I mean, that I don't know if you can copy these links, but you could probably just Google Matrix Solver TI-84, Matrix Solver TI Inspire, and find a similar video. All right, so let's see one other one, or just use Desmos if you're allowed to. I mean, that's what I would do, especially since so much homework's online and stuff. All right, so let's see how this one goes. So this is where the calculator really helps. So in all the previous ones, I didn't do any with 3 variables because it takes a lot of time by hand. So 2 variables is still manageable by hand most of the time. 3 variables can be a headache. So this is where we really want technology to help us. And so let's rewrite this as a matrix first. So we have x, y, z as a new variable, and then the vertical line, and then a constant. So it's always set up this way where the variables are on the left, and then the equals a constant on the right. Okay, and I have 1x, 2 y's, negative 6 z's, and then negative 3 is the constant. We have negative 2, negative 5, positive 2, positive 5, and then we have 3, 5, 4, negative 2. Notice everything's set up already. It is XYZ constant, XYZ constant, XYZ constant. Be extra careful though. Sometimes they like to rearrange it to mess with you just to see if you're catching their little tricks. Here they're nice enough, and most of the time they are nice enough to have everything kind of in order ready to go. Okay, so this is our matrix. And what we're going to do is we are going to do the RREF on it. I'm just going to kind of set up a blank ready to go. But let's show it in the calculator again. Okay, so here's our Desmos. Here's the previous one. If you might need this for some other scenario, you can keep it. So I am just going to do click new matrix. And remember, the way I got there, I just did Desmos and then Math Tools matrix. Okay, so I'm ready in it. And then I'm going to do a new matrix, which is B. Make sure it's got the correct size to it. Okay, so let me scroll over a little bit so we can see everything. So we've got, it looks like 3 rows and then 4 columns. And then just make sure, yeah, that matches. All right, so everything's there. And then now let's type it in. We've got 1, tab, 2, tab, negative 6, tab, negative 3, tab, negative 2, negative 5, 2, 5, 3, 5, 4, negative 2, and then really make sure, double check everything. If we're relying on our technology, we just have to make sure everything's entered correctly before moving forward. I think everything's good. Let's press enter. It's now ready, and then all I have to do is the RREF. Let's do B, and then we can press enter. Now, often they might want fractions, so decimals are often fine, but if they do want fractions, this calculator is super nice. It's right here, convert to fraction. And then there it is. Okay, so I'm assuming they would want fractions. It really is depending on, you know, the form that they might want. Okay, so we've got it. So there it is. And now we can finish this answer off. So let me just put this to the side so I can see it, and that way I can write down what we've got there. Okay, so we've got 1, 0, 0, 3 halves. Then we have 0, 1, 0, negative 3 halves. And then the last row was 0, 0, 1, 1 quarter. All right, and so now we want to rewrite all of these back into equation form. So this first row is 1x, 0y, 0z. I don't need to write those. So 1x equals 3 halves. Here we've got 0x, so really just 1y, 0 z's, equals negative 3/2. And then 0, 0, 1 means I've got 1z, and then equal to 1/4. And so our answer, again, it's usually in alphabetical order, 3/2, comma, negative 3/2, comma, 1/4. So it's an ordered triplet. There's 3 coordinates now. There's our x, y, and z. And just like all equations, if we really want to, we could plug it in to verify. That could help in case I accidentally entered something wrong. So looking at my number 1 equation, I would have 3/2 plus 2 times negative 3/2 minus 6 times 1/4. And I would want to know, hey, does that equal negative 3? Well, 3/2 looks good for now. The 2's here would cancel, and we'd be left with minus 3. And then negative 6 and 1/4 reduces to negative 3/2. And the 3/2 here and the minus 3/2 here would zero out. So we have negative 3 does equal negative 3. So again, we could always check. It's worth a quick one, even when using technology, in case we accidentally entered something wrong. Okay, and then we could really check by doing it into those 2 equations as well. I'm assuming it's all good, which is something that you could check if you really want to. Okay, so let's see one other problem. So often, if we're using technology, they might make it a little tougher to get the setup at least. So on this problem, it says Leo spent $15,600 on 2 different stocks, A and B. Stock A is currently worth $40, and stock B is currently worth $50. If stock B doubles in value and stock A increases by 25%, his stock will be worth $27,000. How many shares of each stock does he own? All right, well, in these types of problems, we want to, again, get a form, something like this. Most of the time, what's on the right represents a total. And so, like, the total spent is looking like what should be on the right side. And then what we also need to do is figure out how to set up the variables. So with all word problems, we always read through it carefully, and let's figure out what should x and y be. Okay, so it says Leo spent $15,000 on 2 different stocks, A and B. Actually, let's read all, so read it carefully, but let's look at this question. I think this is what's most helpful with figuring out the variables. So usually the question at the end is a major clue to what the variables represent. So it says, how many shares of each stock does he own? So they're asking for a number of shares. Okay, so that looks like then we should say x is the number of shares of A, and let's say y is the number of shares of B. Okay, so I think that can help us figure out how to set up these equations real soon here. All right, so let's start working on it. I'm going to use blue. Let's underline some stuff that I think is important. So they said Leo spent $15,000 on 2 different stocks. And then they tell us that the stocks are worth $40 each and $50 each. So these values here are just going to be attached to the respective stock. So this, all in the blue, we're going to say, well, 40 times the number of shares, so 40 times x plus 50 times y equals the total value, 15,600. So that's usually all it takes, is once we figure out what the variables represent, these numerical values are often just coefficients attached to the respective variable. Okay, and then we've got, okay, so I'm going to go back to black ink. If stock B doubles in value and stock A increases by 25%, his stock will be worth $27,000. Okay, so this is line 2. Let's go ahead and just get the 27,000 right here. Okay, and it looks like all they want us to do is convert these types of increases. So they said if stock B doubles, so stock B is currently $50. And notice, be careful of the order too. So they started with B for some reason. So current B is 50. But if it doubles, then that would be 100. Okay, so it looks like we should do, and remember b is attached to the y, so it looks like we should do plus 100y for this portion. And then they said that stock A increased by 25%. All right, so we need to do 25% of 40. Now we could use a calculator if we need to. This is 0.25 times 40. Let's do it like that. And that would be 10. Okay, so that's the amount of increase. So that means it's now worth 40 plus the increase, which is 50. So this is all kind of just scratch work for that second part. Okay, so there, let me even break that apart. So 25%, so that was the amount that it increased. So it increased by 10. And then so that means we need to add it to the original. So 40 plus 10 is 50. So that's the new coefficient that should be attached with x. All right, so here's our setup then. Okay, so that made it, or it looks like that is good. Let's see if we get a reasonable answer with this. And the way that we can get our answer is, well, let's convert it to a matrix. So we can use the calculator to quickly do this one. Okay, so I've got my matrix table set up. We've got 40, 50, 15,600, and then we have 50, 100, 27,000. And then we're going to do RREF, and I'm just setting up the blank. I think that will be enough room, I hope. Okay, so one more time here in our Desmos calculator. So again, Desmos Math Tools Matrix Calculator. I might as well I'm going to do a new matrix, and we have 2 rows and 3 columns, and we've got 40, 50, 15,600, 50, 100, 27,000. And then I think everything's typed in correctly, and then now I'm going to do RREF to that new matrix C, and let's go ahead and press enter, and it looks like this is our answer. Okay, so 1, 0, 140. Let me take it to the side. So 1, 0, 140, and then 0, 1, 200. And now we can convert it one last time. So 1x is 140. So it's 140 shares of, let's say, stock A instead of just A. And then y is 200 shares of stock B is what we've got. Okay. And since it's a word problem, I'm boxing that instead of just writing it as an ordered pair. So if it's just abstract, like a lot of the previous ones, we write it as an ordered pair or an ordered triplet. Here, word problem, they often want you to write out what it means as a solution. Okay, but that's it. So I hope this helps with the calculator. So it speeds it all along. In the previous videos, we showed them by hand. Again, it's important to be able to do things by hand because it does maybe connect to other things that a calculator might not be too useful with. But certainly, if you can use a calculator on a lot of these problems, I mean, it saves a ton of time. So if you do have questions on using it or the TI-84, you can let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.